over even a 70-year time horizon. This forward is not the place for the details, but put simply, we believe that obtaining estimates of expected return that do not give undue credit for a strategy getting more expensive or undue blame for it, cheapening as rarely are either expected to occur in perpetuity going forward, is doable, yielding less biased, more accurate, and more precise and underappreciated advantage estimates for the future. But none of this changes the sentiment that strategies getting very cheap or very expensive over the period studied do matter a ton in the real world over time horizons investors care about. We have often used the physics envy term time dilation to refer to how long real life can seem while living it versus how short it can seem when checking out a backtest. It's easy to look at a good backtest in an intuitive, robust strategy and examine its 3 to 5 year painful periods and think, of course I'd stick with it. It makes economic sense and look at the whole history. But I'm guessing to none of our listeners' surprise, it's a little harder to do live and real time. To state the obvious, you need the best strategy you can stick with, not the even better in theory strategy that you can't. You can influence that in two very different ways. You can alter your strategy or come up with ways to put it in perspective that can help you stick with the best versions. We hope that, in particular, by explaining how distortive valuation changes can be and coming up with concrete and useful ways to incorporate this into our estimates going forward, we can get both less biased and more precise estimates and, through the power of this argument, buck up some investors through deeper understanding. Luckily, Antti is a master teacher. In particular, in Part 2, Antti brings his twin perspectives to bear, sharing tons of evidence, theory, and lived experience. We've both been doing this a while. To help. Antti and I have had many of the same teachers, from our days in graduate school to even our decades apart as researchers in the real world, and especially learning from our colleagues over the past 10 years at AQR, not to mention AQR's extended family of academic consultants, co-authors, etc. There's no getting away from the fact that this book is to some extent a reflection of Antti's beliefs, of my beliefs, and of AQR's beliefs. I say that for both disclosure and because it's just true, not always the same thing, and something listeners should know. While Antti and I don't agree on everything, for instance, he's Finnish and thinks going from 190 degrees Fahrenheit sauna to immediately roll around in the snow is healthy, we do agree on much more than we don't. And this brings me to the uncomfortable, for me, topic of Antti sharing our stuff. Antti is, to put it politely, an oversharer. This is generally a good thing in a researcher. No hiding assumptions, lots of musing about the many reasons he could be wrong with an open mind, all good things. But the crux here, he has a true natural bias to reveal some things we'd sometimes prefer to keep to ourselves for a while. But that's my problem, not yours. I think it is certainly good for you as the listener. Though, to be fair, we don't let Antti share everything. He goes pretty far herein, even further than his last book. But we do believe we have some sources of alpha, such a loaded word, that are still relatively unique, and there we do clamp down on Antti a bit. Not an easy task. Maybe if the pattern continues, we'll let him go even further for book number 3 in the year 2031. Okay, back to the book. Even though it starts with doom and gloom in terms of low expected returns, it doesn't end that way. Parts 2 and 3 cover a wide range of ideas to improve investor outcomes that don't rely on markets going up. Some are strategies not particularly rich or cheap, so not a tactical view, but just sources of expected return not correlated to the major ones and, we believe, endemically underutilized in most portfolios. But some are tactical. In particular, what we have deemed back in 1999 to 2000 for you old-timers. The value spread shows that, unlike so many other premia that appear expensive, the value premium, historically positive on average, seems record cheap now. A self-serving opinion and one that will date my forward. Antti covers this, for example in Figure 6.3 and a few other places. But given it's one of the only things I can think of that both